So now with us, we have Sean Satowski, the intelligence analyst for the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation. This session will cover how to stay relevant. Cyber actors continue to evolve their digital attack methods. This presentation will focus on recently identified cyber threats to public and private critical infrastructure sectors, including killware. So get your pens and paper ready for Sean. Sean, it's all yours.
Good deal, stand by. And there's the camera. All right, just give me 1 sec. Let's share my screen. And let's see this work. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Satowski. I work at the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center. It is Pennsylvania's premier fusion center. And originally it was designed as a way to share information between federal, state, and local level law enforcement. So law enforcement about that big. We realized, hey, we're missing a large population. We want to get into the private sector. Private sector and all the people working in the private sector, substantially bigger. The reason for that is private sector sees a lot more threats, physical threats, cyber threats, than just law enforcement. Some of the cyber threats don't reach a certain threshold for either us to investigate or for them to be reported in the first place. So if we can develop a way to reach out, open up the lines of communication between critical infrastructure, private sector, and law enforcement, we're able to collect information, share the relevant information like George touched on in the previous session, and hopefully prevent future cyber attacks based on sharing the information and preventing repeat attacks. So stand by for 1 sec. Let's try this again. All right, I'm gonna turn my camera off for the rest of the presentation, so that way we can focus right on the screen. And can everybody see this second slide?
No screen share, Sean.
Oh, stand by. And how about now?
You're good.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk about current cyber threats. These are threats that have happened in the past year, but also concentrated on things that happened in the past 1, 2, maybe 3 months. These are cutting edge or very close to cutting edge things that are going on. So we've had a lot of people going back to work, looking for work, signing up on websites for main jobs, side hustles. That's been a big topic of conversation. All of this, it opens up the people who are using these and signing up for these services to potential cyber attacks. It broadens the attack surface. So it gives the hacker more doors to open, more passwords to try, more potential information to harvest. So we're going to talk only briefly about ransomware because we want to get into a couple more current things. So ransomware does remain one of the most prevalent cyber attacks. Bob Crow mentioned that his company was a victim of a ransomware attack. There are other companies that continue to be victims of ransomware attacks. However, we're seeing a change to more data breaches. And I'll touch on the data breach in the next slide here. But ransomware remains prevalent. It gets the most news coverage. A lot of people just want to know, oh, so-and-so got hit by a cyber attack or by a ransomware attack. It causes a considerable amount of money damage. Ransomware, when they collect it, we're talking millions. 3 years ago, ransomware attacks were on the level of thousands. And so the monetary damage is rapidly increasing. So the data breaches, they tend to be smaller, they tend to be more frequent. So you have a data breach, sometimes it goes unnoticed. Sensitive information, private information is collected from a targeted company, and then it may be sold on the dark web, or the company itself might be contacted. and then explain that, hey, we have this sensitive information. We're looking for a money payout to destroy this information. In the meantime, the company can keep operating. There is no ransom per se. There's no encryption per se. But what the hacker is hoping for is that they'll still receive the payout, some kind of payout from the company. So this is a stylized version of hacking. This is what the movies show. This is to make it look very interesting, to grab your interest, to lock you into that movie, that TV show. This is not how everything happens. This is really what hacking is. So this is a major part. All the numbers, all the ports, all the IP addresses. It's just the tip of the iceberg. These tools, they aren't very exciting. They also require a good deal of knowledge to work with the outputs from these tools. So this is an IP search for our first example. Second one is a password cracker. Third one is Metasploit. All of these are programs that look for vulnerabilities, or in the case of the password cracker, attempt to brute force their way into a targeted system. Because they're command line based, there's a lot of background intelligence that goes into them. You have to know what to type, how to type it, what to target. It's not a easy point and click solution. So it takes considerable skill. So the current threats. So while I was preparing this presentation, I looked back over some of them I gave in the past few years. I've consistently mentioned business email compromise, malicious email attachments, scam emails. Those still exist. They're effective delivery methods. They happen today, but they've also been going on for quite a while. So what we're going to look at today is the new evolutions of those tactics, things that have gained popularity, tactics that have kind of covered up the previously used one. They gave it a new facade. So we're going to be touching on reCAPTCHA, image inversion, imitation websites, and those tend to run together. We're going to look at old vulnerabilities. We're going to look at scam text messages, and then two brand new ones that were just brought to light within, I believe, the past 2 months, which are QR codes, malicious QR codes, and then USB HID devices. Don't worry, I'll go over the acronym, and we're going to wrap it up with current events.
Sean, it looks like we lost your audio.
Yeah.
All
Sean,
right,
are
everyone,
you
just-
there?
Yeah, just hang out, everyone. We'll see if Sean
So
can get
starting
audio
off
back.
with and ultimately causing that website to crash. Oh, let me double check. How's the audio?
Yeah, you're good, Sean. Thank you.
Okay. I just got an alert. My connection is unstable. Just let me know if I
Okay.
drop out again. All right. So reCAPTCHA links. We were talking about denial of service. So the reCAPTCHA links, I think everyone has seen them before. It's the series of 3x3 images, and you have to select like 3 or 4 of them that are a tree or a bus, something to that effect. So the test on the surface makes perfect sense. What the attacker did is changes this up a little bit. The link is delivered still from phishing emails or from scam text messages or something along those lines. But what it does is it brings you to an imitation website hosted by the attacker that uses non-active reCAPTCHA links. It's purely the visual look of it as opposed to a real reCAPTCHA link. Okay, so the first one, I've only seen this a few times. This is not the common one, but the technique is this. So when a malicious file is downloaded, at the same time, a window comes up for reCAPTCHA to prove that you're not a bot. In the meantime, it's downloading this exe program in the background. And so it wants you to push these buttons, and the B and the S button do absolutely nothing. But the tab makes you select the keep button on the file that you're downloading. AF, do absolutely nothing, and then enter keeps and launches that file. And so you think that you're just typing in proof that you're a real human. In actuality, you're installing the file. And then once it's installed, the malware can run in the background. It can cover its tracks. It can prevent you from actually noticing what's going on until your system's compromised. Now, the more common one is these 3x3 picture selectors. Again, this looks spot on. In actuality, this is a fake reCAPTCHA link. There is one thing on this page that gives it away. And if you look in the top left where it says, "I'm not a robot," there's a quote, there's a double quote rather than a single quote. So little inconsistencies like that might give it away that this is a fake page. And also, if you would get to a page like this, say you clicked the link, didn't realize where you were going, and it came up with a reCAPTCHA link. If you would click the refresh button
Hey, Sean, we're getting
some of
you
the
garbled.
images, the same exact, oh no,
You
okay,
just came back.
let's check voice, how's that?
No, you're
Hold
better.
on. Let me move my my computer a bit. Let me see if I
You're
can get
okay
a better
now,
reception
Sean.
here. Okay, how's everything?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so reCAPTCHA links. A giveaway for this, real quick, don't know if you heard this. If you look at the top right for the word "I'm," it has the double quote in it. And also when you click the refresh button for the images, the same images will come back. The attacker's website tends to only use one set of 9 images. Obviously, once people realize this and the hacker realizes that they're clicking refresh, seeing that the images don't change, they can easily program in a new set of images. So the point still remains, you have to be careful of the links that you're clicking. Okay, another technique, image inversion. So image inversion is a detection avoidance technique. What happens is it starts with social engineering. It's used to create an environment that the target person or the target company is more likely to share any kind of sensitive information. The cyber attacker builds up the confidence in the target. So this might be through those business email compromises that are very common. It might be built up through an alleged marketing campaign or an alleged good point of contact at another company that met someone on a LinkedIn page. There's a lot of roundabout ways to get there. Image inversion, 90% of office workers depend on Microsoft products. So Microsoft Outlook and Office 365 are the most commonly targeted login pages and things that are imitated by image inversion. So this is how it works. Negative background of an image is coded to avoid the email phishing detection algorithms. Then the page is re-rendered as a positive image, and it has a login, and the victim doesn't notice anything different because the screen flashes too fast. So let me show you how this works. And just like that, less than a second, sometimes you won't even see it. The screen is a negative, quickly refresh to a positive, and then it's looking for your password. Typically, a hacker will already know your username, and so all they need is that one piece of relevant information, just the password. So if you think too quickly through this, you enter your password and then realize, oh no, that was the wrong one, I shouldn't have done that. It's already too late, and so you should be on the phone with IT at that point in time. Which leads to imitation websites. So the imitation websites, a lot of times they're used as a landing page for a malicious link in a phishing email. So it's designed to be identical to the authentic website. And the websites aim to collect that sensitive information, usernames, passwords. Even if, this is a key, even if you type in your name and let's say your date of birth on one of these pages before you realize it's a scam, that hacker will see those two pieces of information. You don't even have to continue with credit cards or passwords or anything like that. They'll get any information that you type in real time. So common software and prominent organizations remain the most highly targeted, purely because of huge user bases and the commonality of or recognizability of their websites. So we're talking about Microsoft, Yahoo, Amazon. Amazon's a big one. Apple, eBay, Google. They're huge, billions of users. And so access to varying amounts of sensitive information in those. So good news is the large companies have really robust cybersecurity detection and response. Case in point, I have a Gmail account. Gmail is it recognizes the common IP addresses that I tend to log in from. If I'm on vacation and I'm using another IP address, it'll actually set a warning up. It'll make me approve the access before it'll actually let me into to use email or go to my Google Drive, anything like that. So some example of imitation websites. Like I said, big companies are imitated commonly. So Microsoft and these login pages, I see these a lot. And incidentally, these 3 boxes come from the same website, but every time I refreshed the website, it would come up with a different login box. It kind of made it seem a bit more authentic because sometimes it asked for my email. Sometimes it supposedly already knew my email and wanted my password. It just makes me think a little bit more. What about this website? Oh, I believe that this website was hosted in China or hosted in Russia. It would make no sense why I would type in any kind of information on a website hosted out of the United States. So that was kind of a giveaway. Okay, another example, DocuSign, again, heavily imitated, especially in the banking and commercial real estate sectors. Commercial real estate especially is targeted with DocuSign campaigns. Just case in point, this was actually pulled from a website hosted in China as well. Current DocuSign emails, though, include a couple additional things at the bottom, including a security code and additional contact info. If you need to verify the authenticity, you would be able to contact either the sender or DocuSign, and they would have a record of, they would be able to look up the record of that email. Oh, and one more thing, DocuSign emails always come from HTTPS secured sites. So this is a real life example of a fraudulent, I guess, let's see here, Facebook page trying to imitate our Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. So notice the lack of verification. There's no blue check mark next to this, and also the misspelling of labor. So hackers continue to evolve. It doesn't matter how they evolve. It doesn't matter what they do. What matters is how quickly you react to that. And so in the case of this threat, as soon as it was noticed, we took care of it, and it was down in a matter of minutes, I believe. But point is, if you notice it, if anyone else in your company notices it, it doesn't matter who it is, it should be reported to the IT department, because if no one notices it, IT won't notice it. If 50 people notice it, IT has no problem with it because they'll already take care of it. All right, so revisiting old vulnerabilities. We're going to move into a different type of cyber threat here. But it's not new, it's old. It's actually based on old systems, old software, old problems, and old vulnerabilities. These types of vulnerabilities, they played a big part in the SolarWinds breach from the end of 2020, also the DC Metropolitan Police Department data breach, and then a few others from this past year. So we're starting to see hackers revisit these old vulnerabilities, ones from 2017, 2018, and it's because these old attacks can be automated. The attack was used in an automated program software that looks like this to attack Edgewater products. They are VoIP and video conferencing products. Typically, small and medium businesses use them. While this program was made in 2021, you can see right in the middle of the screen, it was based on an exploit from 2017. So the reason why this is important is there are companies that might have either missed vulnerabilities and patches and updates for software, or they might have acquired new hardware and didn't realize that the software in that hardware hasn't been updated. This is why it's important to constantly review your cyber-hygiene and IT security position to make sure that all of the systems on your network completely patched. So we're moving into text message scams now. These are becoming exceptionally popular. So it's the evolution of email. Scam emails, we're trying to make you do something quickly without thinking, quoting urgent and exclamation points and all that stuff in the email. They want you to act without thinking. So the scam text messages are the evolution of this. From a personal standpoint, I've noticed a substantial increase in text message scams throughout 2021, and it's just getting particularly bad at the end of 2021 and also right into 2022. So much more common, and they do the same thing as the scam email. They try to make you do something quickly before you realize that it's a scam. So what better way to try to get you to do something quickly when they send it right to that device that's attached to your hip or it's in your pocket? When you're moving around, when you're on the road and you see something come in, you're less likely to think deeply about it and more likely to just click a button or see what it's asking you to do or open something up. A couple of examples of text message scams that I've received. They share similar traits to phishing emails. If you notice, the top left has grammar mistakes. The bottom right is extremely generic. They both originate from what looks like a cell number or a telephone number versus an AT&T messaging account. And then obviously AT&T doesn't make you click a link if they're going to give you some kind of compensation. They're going to put it back onto your account. Let's see here. Oh, and that's right. Before anyone asks, no, I am not Asia. So I don't know who that was supposed to go to, but certainly it wasn't me. So moving on, we are talking about quick response QR codes. These more or less 2D barcodes are being used more commonly. Reason for this, they were originally developed for high-speed optical recognition, which means they can be read extremely quickly. There's a slight delay when you read a barcode. There's much less delay when you read a QR code because the system that reads it is faster. Inside this barcode, it includes a lot more info, a lot more space. So they can put tracking numbers, location data, links to websites, links to applications. This QR code that we actually have on the screen links to the Pennsylvania State Police see something, send something application. So because this information's loaded up more or less into an image, you can't determine where it's going to take you, what website it's going to bring you to. You can't determine the nature of it. So the malicious nature of this, it comes from the attacker using this QR code to bring you to a bad website or to bring you to like an imitation website, something along those lines, where you're going to get tricked into giving them your login credentials, bank account info, things like that. It's very popular with bank account fraud, I guess fraud in general. Let's see. Oh, so two more things with this. These have become very popular on mobile devices because iPhone and Android both include all of the technology and the software to automatically read these from the camera application. Also very popular, QR codes have been used more and more for fraud and also at ATMs that allow you to buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. So this is actually a good place to go. This coinatmradar.com allows you to look around and see if your area actually has cryptocurrency ATMs. So in Harrisburg, I remember running this maybe a year or 2 years ago. There were substantially less, but now you see there's quite a few. Just in Harrisburg alone, right in the middle, up and down the river, we're talking about 8 of them within the course of, say, 12 miles or so. So how to protect yourself, being aware of the scam link, how these QR codes work, where they may take you. That's going to be the first step. So second, I think one of my coworkers said this the best. She was describing this type of attack. So she said, you should never enter credentials or any kind of personal information without verifying that website that you're going to in the first place. You would be looking at what it ends in. If it ends in .com or .gov, or if it ends in a country code, like a 2-character country code, there should be no reason why you would be entering sensitive stuff in something that's out of the US. Second thing is, like I said, the QR code frauds have been used with bank account fraud, and also just various scams like internet scams. So if you're dealing with any kind of money movement, rather than use a QR code that you believe goes to your bank, you should actually use your bank's mobile application or go to your bank's actual website, like manually type it in the browser. That way you know that you're going to the right place. And if it comes out that this is a scam attack, you wouldn't be susceptible to it because you wouldn't be at their address. All right, something that is absolutely brand new. Let me start off by saying this is a very creative attack. This technique resurfaced in the last quarter of 2021, I think October 2021. So the FBI began receiving reports that US companies were getting these, you could call them care packages. Inside the care package was either like a Best Buy gift card and this USB drive, or something related to COVID and a USB drive. And the USB drive, it is this one that's pictured on the screen, and it was branded Lily Go. On the surface, this seems like a basic attack, but here's where it gets interesting. So many businesses run Windows, and they're going to use Windows group policy settings to block the auto run feature when you plug a USB drive in. So if it has malicious software on it, it won't auto run, and then your company will block you from running an exe or installing any kind of software. So that type of attack is prevented. However, these devices, they actually identify as a human interface device, so an HID, which is more or less a keyboard. And because of the identifying as an HID device, they don't have the same restrictions as launching an exe. So once it's plugged in, it actually launches a virtual keyboard, and it enters a bunch of key codes that direct the computer to connect to a command and control server that the cyber attacker controls. And after that connection, software is downloaded, and the system is ultimately compromised because there's a direct connection from the attacker's computer to your own computer. So like I said, very sophisticated attack. In the last session, George touched on cyber groups actually recruiting insiders to facilitate an attack. So in this case of the HID attack, it's somewhat along the same lines. The insider would be an unwilling insider. They wouldn't actually know what they're doing until they plug that USB drive in. But get a load of this. Even in the HID attack, the senders have actually followed up with emails and with telephone calls, more or less pressuring the person who received this to plug the drive in, asking if they plugged the drive in, did they like the surprise, things like that. So very sophisticated, very unique attack. So current events. That USB attack was a pretty good segue into current events. Attackers are well aware of global stuff, things that play a major part in the effectiveness of any kind of cyber campaign. It only takes one employee to compromise the system. And so in this case, COVID, even though it's been going on for years, it still produces that endless supply of scam material. So at the beginning, it was personal protective devices. Then it was vaccine location websites, imitation websites, rapid testing. More or less anything that's associated with COVID still ranks very high on people's interest, and scammers exploit that. One of my previous presentations, I talked about how cyber threats can be characterized into an active attack or a passive attack. So the active attack, it was forceful, it was urgent, it wants you to do something, click something, enter something, but they want you to do it right now. The force is direct. There are a lot more passive attacks though. And so the supply chain delays, the shipping notifications could be called a passive attack. And the passive attack is, it's welcoming, it's relaxed. It tends to present itself as a security alert or a protection of some sort. Like in a shipping notification, the scam message would be, hey, you're getting a package that has been delayed, or we've received an order for a $700 microwave. If you did not order this, click the link. So current events, they play a pivotal role in the effectiveness of that cyber campaign. The subtle force is there, that passive attack is there. The last thing to remember about these, if it's out of the ordinary, if it's too good to be true, or even if you didn't ask for it, if you didn't order that $700 microwave, still don't trust the link. All right, the cutting edge. So where are we headed next? With every ransomware incident, every data breach, every account compromise, IT security improves. So companies get better, they get better virus scanners, they get better malware scanners, they get better threat detection, they get better response software. But these improvements, they're not cheap. At the beginning, I mentioned Google, Microsoft, Amazon, the big companies. They have a lot of money to devote to this. Smaller companies, they probably don't have the same money. They probably don't have the dedicated in-house cyber security department. They're going to rely on outside third-party cyber protections. Next point, extortion techniques and data breaches. So they're becoming increasingly popular. They're starting to get up there along with the ransomware detection. So preventing the extortion and preventing the data breach should be paramount in an organization's security posture and security protocol. Let's see what else. Oh, last thing that I wanted to mention here. We have received a lot of reports and observed a lot of other reports of targeting of small devices, Internet of Things devices. So we're looking at TVs, heating and cooling systems, especially home security systems with cameras. List goes on, but it is any kind of small device that you can control over the internet. That's exactly what it is. If it's able to be controlled by you over the internet, it's also susceptible to a cyber attacker. Excuse me. So some mitigation strategies. So I had mentioned earlier, somewhere around 80 or 90% of systems today run Windows as that primary operating system. Mac and Linux cover the remaining 10 to 20%. And the two most common mobile platforms, we have iOS and we have Android. Outdated software on any of the devices that you use opens that product or opens that device up to a vulnerability. So software companies, they design a product, they provide those updates for a set period of time. Microsoft releases periodic updates, especially for Windows 10 and going into Windows 11. However, there is a point in time when there won't be any more security patches and updates. Windows XP, as good as it was, is no longer supported by Microsoft. Same way with Windows 7. So if there are agencies that are relying on XP systems and Windows 7 systems, I would strongly recommend upgrading to Windows 10 devices. That might require a new system, or you might luck out and you can use Windows 10 on your existing hardware. But either way, it's the software and the ability to update it that will serve to protect your company into the future. Current versions of Windows is Windows 21 H2, and that's going to be the same version for enterprise and for home. To check for updates, you would go to Start, you'd search for Windows Update, and then check for updates. Also, if you wanted to look to see what version you have, it's a bit easier. You would push the Windows key and X, and then select System, and then scroll down to the bottom, and it would say what your Windows version is. All right, hot off the press, the current Apple iOS version is 15.3, which was released yesterday. I was making sure my information on these slides were correct, and I knew 15.3 was coming out, and boom, it made it just in time. So look for the updates on your phone. The oldest supported iPhone is a 6S, and likely they'll be supported until iOS 16 comes out, at which point in time, if anybody's using a 6S, you're gonna have to upgrade. Key point with iOS updates, they are best installed when you're connected to a Wi-Fi access point. There's other ways to do it, like manual ways to do it, but a Wi-Fi access point is the best and the quickest. So make sure when you're at home, turn the automatic updates on and let it do its work. And not to be left behind, Google Android. I believe that they have just released their January security patch. Typically, the security patches come towards the end of the month for the current month. So I believe January just came out. Current Android system is Android 12. 12 just came out for the Google Pixel and most of the Galaxy devices. If you have any other brand Android device, look for it coming soon to your device. So hardware vulnerabilities. Let's see, what can we say about this? Let's start out with, there are some old things and they're cool. Old computers, old bicycles, old motorcycles, I'm into all that. Things that are not cool are old firewalls, old hardware, out-of-date email servers. A lot of those things have been the basis for the cyber attacks and the breaches and the ransomware that we've seen in the past year, year and a half. So hackers are aiming for any kind of vulnerabilities in these outdated software and also in old hardware. Any kind of unpatched software and old devices, especially ones that vulnerabilities have been discovered in and then aren't changed, are susceptible. Like that Edgewater slide I had a few slides back, that was currently programmed currently programmed applications for attackers looking at 2017 vulnerabilities. That's a 4-year-old vulnerability. And they were successful because there were agencies that were still using those and hadn't updated them. So every year, NordPass releases the top 200 most common passwords. They provide the direct access to the list of these common passwords. And just to clarify, your passwords, you don't want them on this list. This is the bad list. So the site gives you also some fun facts. They noted how many people used their own name for a password. Going from memory, I believe dolphin was the top animal related password. Swear words were in there. Ferrari and Porsche were in there, and as many common passwords as you can think of, especially the 1 2 3 4 5 6, the password 1 2 3, and anything similar to that. So if your password was on that list, you probably want to check this site to see if there's any kind of vulnerabilities, if anyone successfully made it into an account that is connected to your email address. And so what this does is you type in your email address, And also, I believe it does telephone numbers now. And it'll tell you if your email address is associated with a data breach. It'll tell you the company and it'll tell you the date of that breach. And so it'll make you do two things. One, go to the breached site and change your password. And two, if you use that old password anywhere else, go to those other websites and change that. Okay, case in point, I mentioned that I have a Gmail account. I've had this Gmail account since 2004. Excuse me. And so I've been using it for quite a while, job applications, all kinds of different things. So that email is out there. Back then, I used simple passwords, and I shouldn't have. So good news is Dropbox from 2012, I've already changed my password as soon as I saw that. My email address was, again, located in a breach with MyFitnessPal and then in Zynga. Again, if you see anything on here, nothing to worry about. This is an indicator of a potential data breach. And so the safest bet, go reset your password, change it to something else. And at that point in time, change it to something more secure. All right, so how to make strong passwords. A quick walkthrough. This would actually be a good thing to screenshot or take a picture of. This helps you draw up a strong password, and ultimately it arrives at a substantially strong password that'll meet, I believe, the majority, if not all, of the most secure systems in effect today. So you can see the progression: strawberry to strawberry with numbers, to strawberry with symbols and numbers, and then ultimately it gets down to passphrases. And so popular passphrases, it could either be a sentence or lyrics of a song are also popular these days. And so you would take the first letter of every name, make your acronym, and then as you sing the song or as you state the sentence, you just type in the first letter of each word. Next step, if you have the ability, if your agency has the ability, or if you have the option to select MFA, absolutely do it. More or less, it is a second password. It is another way to verify that you are logging in and you also currently have a cell phone in your hand or your work email open. And so a combination of passphrase and MFA, absolutely very strong password. This prevents 99%, if not all, of brute force attacks. So a couple more ongoing mitigation strategies. Slow down your thought process. Social engineering used in those emails has dramatically improved. Some of them getting extremely difficult to identify as fictitious. Private companies that deal with third-party contractors should verify any type of suspicious and unsolicited request. Major companies have upped their cybersecurity. So the next step that the hackers are focusing on are third-party contractors. The smaller contractors, the smaller companies that don't have the same money for IT or for IT security. Let's see here. And we're going to touch on this onto the next slide. Logging into sites without using your Gmail, Facebook, and Apple ID. This is what I mean by that. Shared credentials. So for convenience, some websites let you log in using your common usernames and passwords. Every single site that I find with this, I always create a new account for that site. If I type in my username and my password to Facebook, Twitter, Google, Windows, any other option, that puts my username and password out there. So that's something you don't want to do. Some scam resources. The FBI hosts a website of, I believe, all known scam techniques. It provides a searchable list of the different scams. It could be text scams, it could be elderly scams, other telephone scams. It just has an incredible collection of them. And what it does is provide the general overview of the scam, how to recognize the scam, and then some ways to reduce the risk of becoming that victim. It also gives talking points if you're talking to your parents and they might not be as completely well versed in appropriate cybersecurity. It gives you something to talk about when you're over visiting, because the hacker will target the most susceptible either system or most susceptible person. CISA has also launched a new campaign. CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and along the same lines as the FBI, huge database of ransomware knowledge, data breaches, account compromises, and they provide easy to understand guidance. When you walk into your IT department and say, hey, we need to strengthen our cybersecurity, that is a very broad request. The FBI and the CISA website kind of give written outlines and good guidelines to follow, so that way you can work your way down the list. It helps you not forget. It helps the IT department not forget to do a certain step, or not to forget to check a certain system. And a couple of final thoughts, so we're coming down to the end. Most important part of the current cyber threat landscape and cyber threat environment is recognizing the ways that cyber attackers get in. Most important things: there'll always be new and sophisticated attacks. They'll be right around the corner. Many are evolutions from previous attacks. They'll have the similar tactics, they'll have similar techniques, similar procedures, but they'll sugarcoat it. They'll cover it up with some type of new looking thing, better social engineering, better salesmanship even. So main things for final points. Remember, updating and patching. Those are some of the most common and most easily forgotten things that doing so would help secure your company and your systems even further. Recognizing scam traits, including the unexpected and the urgent, things that are out of the ordinary, the odd requests, and also the suspicious links. If you want to go to Amazon.com and you think the link will take you there, but instead it's taking you to high-priced, cheap things at amz.org, that's going to be a little bit more suspicious. That wouldn't make sense to go there. Be wary of QR codes. I explained how they're good. They allow quick recognition of websites and good directions to applications, but they can also be exploited for bad use. Don't use unknown USB devices. We went over the HID device, where even if your agency, your company has auto run disabled for USB devices, this is a creative attack that gets around that security protocol. Use strong and unique passwords with a password manager. And most importantly, report any kind of suspicious activity to your IT department. Hopefully your agencies are using the test scam emails that get sent out to various users in the company, and it'll see if they fall for a scam attack. It'll attempt to get them to do something. If all of your employees pass, that's good. If one of your employees clicks the link that they're not supposed to, or types something in that they're not supposed to, it just becomes a talking point, an opportunity for more training. When everyone is on the same page and they can recognize those scams, it just makes your organization just a bit more secure. All right, so with that, I'm going to open the floor to any questions. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to present some of this contact information. To report any type of suspicious activity, either physical or cyber, we can use this email address. Our goal is to gather that information, any kind of physical, cyber information, suspicious activity information, and also how it was mitigated. George touched on this information, the type of information that would be useful a little bit earlier today. The most important details would be the type of malware, how it got into the system, and how IT responded. After the attack, the most important thing is to realize what you either did to improve your security or what you did to stop that threat. And it helps you realize that some procedures might be good, some procedures might need a little bit more work.
Sean, thank you very much. That's it was an extremely informative presentation, as you always tend to provide. We had one question from Daryl Schaefer. It seems the hackers are always one step ahead of security measures. How can security get ahead of the hackers? And I know some of those last 2 or 3 slides seems to answer that question. Is that your take? I mean, should personnel, should folks go to the FBI.gov/scam website and the CISA site to stay on top of these scams?
Yep, exactly. So they're going to be updated very frequently. The critical infrastructure unit at the state police, we review those sites. We review some other sources for up and coming threats, current threats, threats that are resurfacing. And so between us distributing current threats, as well as CISA and the FBI updating their web pages, it should give you a pretty good overview of the things that are happening now.
Yeah, and folks, if you're not on their distribution list, I really strongly suggest you do that, because it's just another way to maintain situational awareness of the latest scams. And these guys, these perpetrators are amazing at adapting and finding clever ways of spoofing you, essentially, to make it look like they're legit. Sean, I had a question for you. You mentioned the USB HID attack, which sounds pretty unique. So you mentioned that disabling auto run does not get you away from being attacked by that?
Yes, that's correct. So that was the one of the, I guess, creative workarounds that this attack used. Just for example's sake, every agency computer that I've ever used always had auto run disabled in Windows with group policy settings. So the IT departments would know exactly what that is. But what that prevents is purely an exe file from running or an auto run script from running on that USB drive. In this case, I believe the attack was along these lines. That LilyGo drive was able to be reprogrammed to identify as a keyboard. And so because of that, you plug it in, it says, hey, computer, I'm a keyboard. And the computer says, oh, okay, we'll load you up as a keyboard. And then after that, it is the USB drive is designed to literally send a bunch of keystrokes to the virtual keyboard. And it more or less programs the computer to contact a command and control server and then download software. So there's no software really that comes with the Lily drive. All it is a direction for the computer to contact the attacker's computer.
That's amazing. So I guess the next best thing is to put some glue into the USB port.
Hey, incidentally, if that is part of if no USB devices is part of your company's security protocol, there are physical blocks that you can plug into USB ports and also into networking ports. And it's kind of like a one-way plug. You plug it in and it snaps in there, and it's not easily removable. If you Google for them, some high-end federal agencies use those types of devices, and so it would actually be a physical unit that would prevent you from plugging in the USB device.
Interesting. Sean, you also mentioned that some of the older operating systems, Windows 7, Windows XP, no longer supported, understandably. If you're a company that still uses those operating systems, but you don't get on the internet, however, you allow your employees to take their laptop out to the public, they could log on at Panera's, for example, and get into a public Wi-Fi and then bring it back in. Doesn't that subject you to a potential attack?
Yeah, let me clarify though. The computer, let's say it's that laptop. Are you saying that it's a business laptop with Windows 7 that an employee can then take to Starbucks?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so yeah, any type of connection to the internet on a vulnerable system opens you up to a potential breach. So Windows 7 no longer supported, which means no longer receiving security updates. If you connect to a public Wi-Fi hotspot and there's a hacker also connected to it, he might be cataloging who is connecting to this access point. Well, he can determine that you're on a Windows 7 computer versus a Windows 10 computer. And then from there, he can say, hey, let's try this vulnerability, or let's attempt that vulnerability. And one of those things could merely give him access to that laptop that he can then exploit at a later point in time.
Interesting. Okay. I don't see any other questions. Sean, thank you very much for your presentation. Again, as always, very thorough, very informative. And I thank you and PASIC for sharing that information with the group.